Hello everyone, it's Mark. Have you eaten? Devstream 12, which focused on Preludes 13, the first big patch for this year, was streamed and I compiled the information on there. The first and biggest change that is coming is the rework to the virtue system. Previously, the way it worked was that as you got stronger, the game gave you points to put in the three major stats of courage, spirit, and grace. This is being removed and instead a new item called virtue prisms are being added. By equipping a Virtue Prism, your stat distribution will change and points will automatically be assigned as you gain them based on the ratio of distribution of the prism. So for example, a prism that is heavily skewed towards courage will assign your points mostly into courage. There will be more mild prism, which will more evenly distribute your points across the three stats for more well-rounded builds. Some may be more of a hybrid between the two of them. It would just depend on what you equip. The stats themselves will be a bit more important as they dictate your scalings and what kind of weapon and armor you can use. For instance, courage is focused on melee combat and a warrior type playstyle, which will give access to heavier armors. Spirit will focus on magic, meaning that your weapon attacks will be weaker and you cannot wear stronger armor, but your spells can be cast more often and be stronger. Grace is all about stealth, whether as an archer or a sneaky assassin. They get bonus damage to unaware enemies and finisher attacks. Armor will also work like weapons in that there will be a minimum virtue stat requirement, and they will not be as effective if you don't meet the requirements. Furthermore, your armor's defensive properties will scale based on your virtue points, so Orengo's armor might scale off grace in order to boost its stability defense. Virtues will also affect pact abilities differently in that each stat will only affect one spell each. So instead of courage scaling damage, spirit scaling range, and grace scaling duration, each stat will independently scale all the different parts of that one spell. So for instance, Ode Tempest's first ability will now get damage, range, and duration all from courage, or however the developers choose to assign it. This means that different builds on the same pact will play differently, so a courage build of Tethrin will look different from a spirit one. The game is also pushing towards a bonus sort of system instead of punishing players. What this means is that usually a baseline is maintained and that any scaling you get is extra on top of that base. For instance, currently, if you do not meet the virtue requirement for a certain weapon, it would punish you by nerfing the weapon damage so that it's worthless to use. With this new update, if you hit the stat requirement, you now get extra bonus damage instead. In regards to this, blessed joineries are also getting changed. They no longer switch the weapon's attunement to a different stat. It will now give you extra scaling with that stat. For instance, if a weapon scales off of grace and you put the courage joinery on it, instead of replacing grace with courage, it will now still scale with grace, but with an extra bonus scaling with courage. Combat flow and animations are also getting some major touch-ups. The combat feel will now improve as the changes will affect the camera, the way the target lock works, and the general snappiness to the game. In addition, the team has revamped the sound effects of the weapons to get more metal clanging, such as when you block with the shield, or if you hit an armored enemy, and overall changes to the meatiness of impact hits. The amount of unblockable attacks that enemies have has now also been reduced so that blocking and parrying will be more viable instead of being forced to dodge all the time. Stability is also getting looked at as the devs are trying to reduce the amount of knockdowns that the players take. It works by giving everyone a base amount of stability with bonuses from things like the type of armor you wear, like heavier armors giving more stability. To take advantage of these new systems, there will be 3 new weapons called Basker's Rest, Seathorn, and Clivers, which are a dual short sword sidearm. There is a new game mode coming out too called The Organ, which features the giant towers that were added in Preludes 12. The goal of this game mode is essentially to go inside the giant towers and destroy it from within to prevent the pollution of the planet. Further, talking to the World Tree will now also give you faction quests, where you can pick the star difficulty, in addition to sieges, Mada/Nimrod's collector fights, Avocat's store, as well as the new Organ event. There is also a new boss enemy, the Vadagar Bear, which is the corrupted open world version of Bromius, like how the Vadagar Stag boss is the corrupted version of Garen Rude. The bear will only appear at night and in certain places. The next pact that they tease will be a fencer themed pact, which will focus on dueling, and it is implied that a fencing sword will be added as well. Speaking of packs, customization is now being added to Verminia's, where you can also change your face, hair, and all the colors. In addition, packs can now also be customized. Finally, to wrap it up, developers have stated that mounts are slated to be released this year, and that the first half of it will be focused on big, sweeping changes to the game. And that about wraps up everything that was shown in the Devstream. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys eat good food and stay fed, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.